subscribe.
Hi everybody and welcome back. My name's Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. Today I'm going to talk about what to look for in a beginner or a student quality violin. I just had a comment made by one of my subscribers this morning asking if I can actually do a video on what to look for in a violin, especially a beginner violin. There's lots of you guys out there that actually don't really know what to look for in a violin, and I know a violin is, I suppose, a violin, but then when there are so many brands and so many different prices and things, it does sort of start to get really hard and you do kind of question what's good and what's not and that kind of thing. So hopefully this video will clear up a few myths and or just help you in what to look for and things. I just want to start by saying there are literally hundreds of brands of violin. I know a lot of you say, oh, I've seen this brand, I've seen that brand, what do you think, and what do you think of this, what do you think of that? It's very difficult for me to comment on that kind of thing because what we have available here in the UK isn't necessarily what's available in the USA, for example, and vice versa. So it depends on what you've got available in your country. But suffice to say, they're all quality. They're all student quality stroke beginner violins. So if they're all around $100 or £100 something, or $120, £100 mark, then it's going to be a student quality violin. So in terms of what to look for, like I say, there are loads and loads of different brands, so I really couldn't tell you which brand was going to be good and which brand wasn't going to be any good. However, I have done one review on the Stentor 2, which is this one, and I really like this one. Just in case you're wondering, I don't have anything to do with Stentor at all, although I probably should actually with the amount of Stentors I tend to shift, but I don't earn any commission or anything like that off Stentors. I have absolutely nothing to do with them. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just really like them. And the reason why I suggest the Stentor 2 as opposed to anything else is because over the years of teaching, I've had a lot of students come to me with lots of various different brands of violin, Antoni brands, Stentors, Rainbow, for example. They're just the ones that are available in the UK. There are loads of other ones as well, but the only one that seems to be consistent, and the only one I've sort of every time I play one of their violins and demonstrate something in class, for example, it's just when they've got a Stentor and I sort of think, oh, that's actually quite a nice tone. And you'll see from the review that I did, I'll put a link to it, it's coming up somewhere here, so you can see me actually play it and just sort of review the Stentor violin, the Stentor 2. But the reason why I like it is because it's got quite a nice deep tone, it looks quite nice, it feels quite nice, and for the money it's really good. In England it's about £120, 110, 120, depending on where you buy it from. In America, I'm not sure, I want to say maybe $180, maybe $200, something like that. So I think it's pretty much sits at more of the higher end of your student quality violin. But with student quality violins, you more or less get what you pay for. There are probably other brands that are similar in price to the Stentor 2. Doesn't mean to say they're going to sound like the Stentor 2. So yeah, so the reason why I like this is just because it's got, for the money, it's got a really nice tone and it has no scratch on it. And really those are the two most important things as a beginner violinist that you really want. You certainly want something that's going to sound nice, and you certainly want something that doesn't have any scratch, because you yourself are going to be scratchy, unfortunately, when you start, because that's just the thing with violins. It does happen to be that way. So the last thing you want is not only are you scratchy, but the violin is causing so much scratch as well. And sometimes when I have students in lessons, what I do is I take their violin away, I give them my violin to play, and the scratch completely disappears. So I know for a fact it's not them, I know that it is the violin. So you do get what you pay for, but if you try and price match something to the Stentor 2, doesn't mean to say it's going to be the same as the Stentor 2. This just happens to be a nice little kind of gem that I've just happened to find. They have a Stentor 1, don't bother with that, it's rubbish, it's no good. It's okay if you can't afford the Stentor 2, but do you know what, for another 20 or 30 pounds or another $40, something like that, it's definitely worth having this. If you get a violin from China, for example, and you get one, some people have said, I mean, they've got them for brand new violins for about £30, and then they get them home and then they send me comments saying that they can't get any sound out of the violin, they can't tune it, they can't do this, they can't do that, it sounds horrible. The reason why is that you've spent £30 on a violin. So folks, just spend a little bit more money if you can. It will make all the difference, because honestly, if you've got a rubbish violin, you're going to sound even worse than you would have done if you just had something a little bit nicer. And honestly, when you're starting, that's the last thing you want. So you want the best for you and the best that you can afford. So, okay. What you're going to be, I suppose, be looking for, or the ideal situation is if you can go into a music shop and you can feel the different types. But obviously, if you can't, that's going to be a little bit different. In which case, you know, that's why I just narrowed it down and recommend the Stentor 2, I guess. But if you can feel them, or if you can go to a shop and everything, I've got my violin here. This is my very nice, lovely, expensive, one-of-a-kind violin, and so it is a little bit of a cheat here. But it's this is a Stentor 2, and these are the only 2 violins that I actually have. So I do actually personally own a Stentor 2 as well. But I suppose you're going to be looking at you're going to be kind of looking out for the feel and the weight. My violin is unusually very, very light. It is one of the lightest violins that most violinists have ever felt. I don't know if it's just for whatever reason, it's just very light. So this is actually not that, the Stentor 2, which is this one, is actually not that much heavier. So for a violin, it's not very heavy. It feels quite nice and it feels quite delicate. So that's one thing that I would actually look for. When you're bowing on the violin, you need it to be nice and smooth sounding. You don't want it to sound very grainy. So again, I mean, there's no point me bowing on this because I know it's going to be smooth anyway, but this one is actually quite nice and smooth. But you will feel it because you'll feel a lot of grain coming out of the violin, and already a lot of other sounds that aren't meant to be there. It's very difficult to explain, but a lot of white noise, I guess, if you like, that's coming off the string and coming out of the violin. So you want as pure a sound as you possibly can. You don't want the violin to feel clunky. You don't want to put it under your neck and feel like you're holding a brick with strings on or something. So you want it to feel quite nice around the hand area here. You want it to feel quite nice around the chin and around the shoulder and that kind of thing. And you don't want it to be heavy. You just almost want it to be a nice extension of your arm, which is what I get from this. But again, I mean, I've spent a lot of money on this violin, so this is an extension of my arm, and I carry this around everywhere with me. You certainly don't want any scratch on your violin as well. If you get a chance to try it out, if the shop can tune it for you, you don't want any scratch. So again, that's a difficult one. As you get better, you will eliminate scratch as well, but you might be able to play a couple of them and think that one scratch is more than the other, in which case go for the one that doesn't sound scratchy. Then of course you're going to be looking for tone. You won't get an awful lot of variation in tone with the cheaper violins because they are just cheaper. This is so much different because of the wood it's made out of, how it's set up. This has all been hand carved and all that kind of thing. So, and all the little bits and bobs I've got on it, right down from the strings to the fingerboard to the peg, and this has been looked after and been set up before I bought this. So everything about it is going to change. I mean, if I slightly move the position of this bridge, it's going to change the tone. If I change the strings, it's going to change the tone. If I change everything else, it's good. So everything else is going to cause things to change. So a violin isn't always a violin, but the difference between my very expensive one and say the student quality Stentor goes down to everything from the wood, the craft, the way it's all put together, all the bits and bobs that are on it, the bridge, the string, everything, and it all makes a difference. When you have your violin, one last thing that you can do is you can replace the chin rest. Now this is the original chin rest that came with it, and I hate it. I haven't bothered to change it to another one. I've got a chin rest video that I've just that I've released with, or 2 videos actually, one talking about a smaller or a thinner chin rest so they're not kind of digging into your neck, and one where it's changing the chin rest, and there's a link underneath the video. I'll try and link it here if I remember, and there's a link under the video telling you where to get the chin rest from. But I honestly don't play this enough to kind of make it worth my while buying another chin rest and putting it on here and everything that's a bit thinner. This is quite high, so it digs in, so that can make it feel clunky. So you can change the chin rest and already it will begin to feel quite nice, and it won't feel so thick and so heavy and so cumbersome, so to speak. The other thing that you can do is to put a decent set of strings on the violin. On the Stentor 2, it will make a difference. I had a student the other day who had a Stentor 2. She bought a set of dominants to the lesson. I told her to get them. She bought a set of dominant strings. I'll put a link to them underneath the description so you know where to buy them. And she bought them to the lesson. I changed them for her, but I was playing on the violin before I changed them. Then I played on the violin after I've changed them, and the amount of difference was unbelievable. So something like the Stentor 2, which is 120 quid's worth, whatever it is in dollars, I'm sorry, maybe $200, I think it's definitely worth paying to have a set of dominant strings. In England, they're about £37. I don't know what they are in dollars. I couldn't even, maybe $50. I don't know. But I'll see if I can find a link on Amazon for you, so you can get the price and you can buy them if you want to. So putting a nice set of strings on is worth it. You don't want to go too silly with a set of strings, price wise, because it's only going to make a small amount of difference. And you haven't paid much for the violin, so you don't want to go too mad on buying say a set of Parastro strings, for example, because it won't give you that much more of a difference. So dominants are nice, good all-rounders, and trust me, if you've got a Stentor 2, put a set of dominants and the sound of the string and the tone will come even more alive than it has before. This is already a deep, rich, velvety violin, so it'll make it even deeper, even richer, and even more velvety, which is great. And it will just, the whole tone and the whole sound will sound brighter and more alive. So I hope that's helped a little bit. It is really hard to kind of advise you on what violin to buy, but a lot of it just depends on your financial situation. But the more you can spend, the better it will be. If you've got about £120 to spend, or about $200, then I would recommend the Stentor 2. Anything underneath that, and especially on eBay, it will do. It will enable you to get going. It will enable you to play and start with my lessons, and then you can always upgrade to a Stentor 2 later on. So if you can only afford £30 for a violin, and that's all you've got at the moment, but you still want to get going, buy a £30 violin. There'll be nothing particularly wrong with it, but I'm just saying, if you've got the extra money to buy something better to start with, then always go for that. So there'll be nothing wrong with them. They will work. They just won't be the best, and you might get a little bit frustrated with them, but they will suffice for the time being, at least anyway. Oh, and one more thing, if you do buy from eBay, they don't always come put together, so you might find that the bridge is sitting in the case somewhere, and you might have to put some strings on and all that kind of thing. So just be careful when you buy on eBay that everything is set up. So sometimes you might not even get the tailpiece. The whole violin will just come in pieces, and you've got to put it all together. And especially if you haven't got a clue how to put it together, you might as well just spend a little bit more money and have something that is put together for you. And don't forget, you'll need a violin, a bow, a case to put it in, and you must get some rosin. If you don't have any rosin, you have to get some rosin. A lot of people are saying they bought their violin, they can't get any sound out of it. The reason why you can't get any sound of it is because you must rosin the bow, and you must put a lot of rosin on the bow. When you get the rosin, get some sandpaper or a nail file and just scratch the top of the rosin so it doesn't look shiny and glass-like anymore. I know it looks like it's ruined it, but you haven't. And then give the bow a really good coating so the bow looks snow white as opposed to a slightly yellow off-white tinge. So give it a very good coating of rosin as soon as you buy a brand new violin, because it won't have any rosin on the sound, and then it will just slide, and it'll just sound sort of scratchy and scrapey. So as soon as you buy a new violin, whack a load of rosin on, and you should get a nice clear tone similar to the sound that you get when I play the violin. So this video has been slightly longer than expected, but I just wanted to deliver everything that I can to you so you go away and you're completely aware of what's going on. So thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you all next time.
Subscribe.